President Donald Trump got off the phone with Vladimir Putin yesterday, went into the White House for a press briefing and said, it's a bloodbath. 5,000 troops getting killed every week, and we got to put an end to it. He had a conversation with both President Vladimir Zelenskyy and President Vladimir Putin to try to put an end to this war, because Donald Trump does not like wars. He doesn't want wars to be fought. He doesn't want people to die, and he doesn't want his legacy to be one of ongoing conflict around the world. He wants the legacy of the peacemaker. That's why he's bringing deals to the Middle East. That's why he's trying to sign deals with Ukraine for rare earth minerals and protection against Russian aggression. And he said the conversation with Vladimir Putin went fairly well. Before, of course, saying none of this would have happened if he'd been president in 2020.
We had a good talk, and I think that progress is being made. 5,000 young soldiers are being killed every single week on average. Can you believe 5,000? And it's actually a number probably worse than that, in addition to other people that are being killed in towns. And we're trying to stop it. It's a bloodbath. It's an absolute bloodbath. I've seen satellite pictures that are so bad, so horrible, and it's to think that in this day and age we're living with this horrible thing that's going on, and we're doing the best we can. This was not our war. This was not me. We're doing something from the last administration. How they allowed that to happen? It wouldn't have happened. It would have never happened. And the Ukraine-Russia wouldn't have happened, but. I'll tell you what else wouldn't have had. October 7th would not have happened. This was a terrible thing also. A lot of bad things happened in the last 4 years, but good things are happening now.
Yeah, and Secretary Rubio was there to reiterate that there are great things happening now, of course, again, because of President Donald Trump's incredible leadership.
I don't know how many of you got to see the president's speech in Saudi Arabia. I think it will go down as one of the most profound foreign policy speeches in American history. And where it outlined a vision for the future and a vision of prosperity. And I tell people, we have a president of peace. In fact, I'll tell you kind of an aside, one of the cardinals I was meeting with, Mr. President, the day before the papal mass, said to me, it's very unusual for us. It's, we have an American president that wants peace, and it's some of the Europeans that are constantly talking about doing war stuff. So it's kind of the world's upside down in their mind right now. It's usually the other way around. And it's a great honor to work for a president who literally spends half his day, maybe more, trying to stop wars, end wars, prevent wars. And it's an extraordinary thing to be a part of, and thank you for your leadership on that front.
Yeah, everybody knows from the Cardinals to the White House to the Middle East to Russia and Ukraine. Everyone knows President Donald Trump spends his time trying to stop wars, end wars, prevent wars, while some of our European allies are out there trying to start wars. It is kind of an interesting dynamic, and it's something that we haven't ever seen. Well, let me think. Ever. But that's because of President Donald Trump. And of course, peace through strength is his doctrine. If you have a strong military, if you have a strong economy, and if you have a strong country, you will have peace around the world, because people understand the phrase FAFO, but only if they're scared of you. They want to know that the United States of America has the strongest, the most lethal, the most highly trained, and the most technologically advanced war fighting mechanism in the entire world. They want to know that if President Donald Trump wants to target somebody and take them out with precision, accuracy, and very low threat of death or casualties, then he can do it, and he will. So they better just not do. They better just do what they're told. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth was being interviewed by Fox News, and he reiterated the whole peace through strength mantra that comes from the White House down to the Department of Defense and all the way through the military.
It's America first meets peace through strength, which means you understand the objectives, how they advance American interests. You're not utopian or globalist and naive in your views of remaking human nature or nation building. These globalist ideas that you're going to change an entire society through military intervention, which you saw us attempting. I lived it in Iraq and Afghanistan, and then you see the consequences. We've seen that movie before. We're not doing it again. And I think what we did in the Houthi campaign in Operation Rough Rider is an example. The president said freedom of navigation is a core national interest. America's ships do not get shot at without consequence. Joe Biden let that happen. That's weakness on the world stage. That stops. And that's specifically what we're going to achieve. And so our campaign from day one was unrelenting in pursuit of that objective. Now, there are plenty of people that would like to see regime change in Yemen. And that would be wonderful. In a perfect world, you got all the time, all the munitions, and all the time to focus on that. The president set a limited objective where we got the Houthis to cry uncle and say we're done, and now our ships can transit that BAM in the Red Sea freely. It's not a perfect end state. They're not completely destroyed, but we also have a lot of other things we need to focus on, like the Iranians, like the Chinese. And if we spend all of our time and effort investing in some sort of regime change war in Yemen, that we're not focusing on the core interests. So time and time again, we're focusing on what matters the most in advancing American interests, with President Trump charting the course.
Does that sound to you like somebody who's not qualified for the job? Does that sound to you like somebody who's not totally up on foreign policy or capable of leading some kind of invasion or some kind of military operation, successful military operation in the Middle East? Pete Hegseth, every single day, every time he opens his mouth, shows that he was the right man for the job. And not just when it comes to, military action, or not just when it comes to planning and execution of military operations around the globe. No, but when it comes to, military preparedness, and most importantly, getting the next generation of military warfighters enlisted and trained. And he says the DE&I initiatives that weaken the United States of America are totally gone. They're over. No more of that stuff. When you enter the military, it should be challenging. It should be hard. You should be pushing yourself as far as you possibly can, because that's how you become one of the strongest fighters in the world.
Listen, everybody wants to be pushed. They want a challenge, purpose. They don't want to say, join the military where it's going to be nice and easy on you. No, how far can I go? Can I excel? Can I meet the standard? Can I be excellent? That's what young men and women of this nation want. If they want some woke garbage, they can go to college. If they want to train to be a warrior and be a part of something bigger than themselves and raise their right hand and seek purpose and honor and duty, join the U.S. military. Be a part of it. And that's why we've seen this record-breaking surge. I mean, the numbers don't lie, Will. It literally starts at Election Day for President Trump and the inauguration and what we've been building. It's been a surge we can barely keep up with, the amount of people that want to join the U.S. military, which is about the biggest vote of confidence I could conceive of.
Hear, 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 hear. President Donald Trump has so many amazing things going on, so many plans, and this has been really one of the truly greatest first 100 plus days of any presidency, and we are going to continue moving forward. He's got so much happening. There's, of course, the Olympics, which are on the way. There's, of course, the World Cup, which is on the way, and the 250th anniversary of the United States of America, which Donald Trump says he's excited to celebrate, but will not be taking the credit for.
Maybe I got lucky because I got the Olympics and I got the World Cup. I did nothing to help the 250th anniversary, because if I take credit for that one, then you'll say, I think he's exaggerating a little. But two of the three, I absolutely got the Olympics, I got the World Cup. And I said to myself when I got them, it was my first term I got them, President Obama would not take the calls from the Olympic Committee, refused to take the calls. And I think because he traveled to Oslo or wherever he went, and very far away, in order to get the Olympics, previous Olympics. And I said, well, that's great. That means we got it, because what president would travel to come in fourth place, which is what we came in, fourth place. And so he was so angry he wouldn't take the call. So I got a call from, at the time, the mayor of Los Angeles. Los Angeles is not looking too good with what the water. We just sent so much water down their way. They didn't want to take it because it was bad for the environment. I said, no, water's good for the environment. If they would have had it when I told them to get it, they wouldn't have had the fires, or it would have been very small. But we took so much, and we were looking at the Olympics. We were looking at other things, and Obama went there, and all that travel, all that everything. And think, who would go there unless you know the answer? You have to know the answer. You can't be embarrassed as president. No president's ever done that. And I give him credit. He went, but he should have known the answer. That's called deal making.
It's called deal making. You know the answer before you go, and you don't go unless you know the answer. You don't go to an award ceremony unless you know you're going to be winning the award. And President Donald Trump won the award, so he's very excited for that. Something else he's very excited about is this big, beautiful bill which heads out of committee into the Rules Committee. President Donald Trump planning a trip to Capitol Hill to talk about the big, beautiful bill with Congress and urge them to push it through, because if they don't, bad things will happen.
Looking to get the the one great, big, beautiful bill. It will be the greatest tax cuts in history. If we don't get it, that means the Democrats will have stopped us, and that means people will get a 68% tax increase, the largest in history. And if we do get it, we're going to have the largest tax decrease in history. And all my life, I've watched politicians screaming, "We will cut your taxes." This is the only group where they say, "We're going to raise your taxes," and they think they're going to win. There's something wrong with them. I don't know what the hell is going on. We're going to raise your taxes. And people say, "That's strange. I've never heard it before."
And it doesn't actually work. Nobody wants their taxes raised. Nobody wants to pay more to the federal government, especially when they get less in return. But there is a battle on the Hill. There's a lot of fiscal conservatives that are fighting to cut even more programs from the government. And there's a lot of moderate conservatives in places like New York, blue districts that Joe Biden might have won, where they are fighting for their political lives and they want more tax breaks and tax cuts for their constituents. So Donald Trump is headed to the Hill to try to figure out how to inspire, whether with kind words or harsh words, all of these Congress people on the right to stick together and get this passed. Because as Deputy Secretary of the Treasury Falkender says, this is the economic stimulation that this country needs, and it's going to do exactly what President Donald Trump says that it's going to do.
The reconciliation bill is part of the president's broader economic agenda, and when you take the work that we're doing to make permanent the tax reform of 2017, the spending reductions that we are seeing in both mandatory and discretionary spending, the trade deals that we are doing, the deregulatory activities we're doing, all of those things combined are going to stimulate growth while bringing deficits down. That will therefore bring the debt to GDP ratio down over time, because as long as we continue to have growth in excessive deficits, we're going to see an improvement in the sustainability of our fiscal situation, and that's what the full implementation of the president's economic agenda will realize.
Okay, that's a lot of big words to mean that it's going to be good for you, that you're going to have more money and lower prices, and inflation's going to go down, and you're going to be able to borrow money at a lower rate, and everything's going to be hunky-dory, but it's got to get passed. The Executive Council something or other, Mirren, also talked about higher growth on Fox News and how this bill is going to inspire the kind of growth that we've all been looking for.
Look, that's correct. Unfortunately, a number of items that will raise revenue fall outside of the scope of what CBO does. You mentioned higher growth from this bill. This bill will absolutely create higher growth, and the Council of Economic Advisors today just released a paper, an analysis, a long paper. You can find it on our website, on the CEA website, where we find that the tax bill will raise GDP by 4.2 to 5.2%. It'll create 7 million new jobs, and it'll increase take-home pay for a typical family of four by about $8,000 to $13,000. So this bill is going to create an economic boom, and that creates stronger economic growth, which creates more revenue because people have more income to be taxed.
But with the Democrats banding together to say, no, we want you to pay more taxes. No, we want you to have a smaller salary. No, we don't want you to experience all this amazing economic growth. It's going to be a fight amongst the Republicans, and with a very slim majority, there are very few votes to lose. That's why President Donald Trump is hell-bent on going there and getting this pushed through. Something else that he was talking about, which was kind of funny, is the Kennedy Center. You know, he came through and he made himself the chairman of the Kennedy Center, and he fired all of the woke DEI individuals there. And the Kennedy Center is starting to see kind of this new, renewed American spirit. And he talked about how this new leadership is so exciting, and it's going to reinvigorate all of the amazing things at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., which has been floundering under a cloud of ridiculousness for quite some time.
The Kennedy Center mission is to be the crown jewel of the arts and culture in our nation's capital. And under our new leadership, we're going to take this revered institution to heights that it's never seen before. I think we can take this to really because we have the right place. We have all the politicians, and then we have the people that want to get to know the politicians for lots of bad reasons. And, we have everybody here. They have to be here for something, sometime. I've got total confidence in the just great team that Rick and the group have put together. Sergio's done fantastically.
Yeah, that's Rick Grinnell, who's also working there at the Kennedy Center. When he's not, we think, running for governor of California, which he may be doing as well. A lot of people in the Donald Trump administration wear a lot of hats, but they wear them well, and they get a lot of stuff. They get a lot of stuff done. The other thing that's happening with the Kennedy Center is not only are they revamping the programming, but of course there were millions of dollars wasted on some really bizarre programs.
So instead of putting forward programming that tears our country down and tears our country apart, the Kennedy Center should be the nation's premier venue for lifting up the best of our country and lifting up the American arts, theater, music, and culture. And together, it's really an honor to be here. I mean, I have so many friends on the board. This is a hot board, just like we have a hot country. You know, we have a hot country. Our country was stone cold 8 months ago. It all began on November 5th. Does everybody know that was Election Day? And from that moment on, and then January 20th came, and what we've done, we have almost no inflation. Our energy prices are way down. Our gasoline costs are way down. Groceries are way down.
Everything's way down. And President Donald Trump is working at a record-setting pace to do even more in the next 3 years. Another really cool moment yesterday happened in the Rose Garden with First Lady Melania Trump, who was there as President Donald Trump signed into law the Take It Down Act, which is now a law that protects young women from revenge pornography and from inappropriate posting from exes and boyfriends and AI generated images that may not be them. All of these things, this brand new problem that the social media companies and a lot of other municipalities really had no tools at their disposal to fight it. But this new bill signed by President Donald Trump now protects women from any kind of acts of revenge regarding intimate photos.
Today, it's my honor to officially sign the Take It Down Act into law. It's a big thing, very important, so horrible what takes place. This will be the first ever federal law to combat the distribution of explicit, imaginary, posted without subject's consent. They take horrible pictures, and I guess sometimes even make up the pictures, and they post it without consent or anything else. And very importantly, this includes for forgeries generated by artificial intelligence known as deepfakes. We've all heard about deepfakes. I have them all the time, but nobody does anything. I asked Pam, can you help me, Pam? She says, no, I'm too busy doing other things. Don't worry, you'll survive. But a lot of people don't survive. That's true, and so horrible. With the rise of AI image generation, countless women have been harassed with deepfakes and other explicit images distributed against their will. This is the wrong, and it's just so horribly wrong. And it's a very abusive situation, like in some cases people have never seen before. And today we're making it totally illegal.
Yeah, and that is something that has been a long time coming. It's been a passion project of the First Lady of the United States of America, and it is now the law. You can no longer do that. Donald Trump protecting women from revenge porn. Donald Trump protecting us from economic devastation. Donald Trump protecting the Kennedy Center from woke DEI initiatives. Donald Trump protecting Ukraine and the Middle East and Russia from unnecessary wars. Donald Trump protecting us from the Democrat Party. And that's what he does every single day. He wakes up and he goes and he fights for you. And he's going to continue to do so. Like I said, he's headed to the Hill, and I'm sure there's going to be some aftermath. There'll potentially be a press conference or some information coming out about what happens. Also, we had big information about Donald Trump's the attorney for the District of New Jersey, Alina Habba, who filed charges against a high-profile Democrat, assault charges. We'll bring you all that information and more in our second daily podcast, Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. Every single day at 1 p.m. Eastern, you can hear Mark Kaye Saves the Republic live, or you can download it on your favorite podcast platform. Download, listen, and enjoy.